What's up, guys? Dom here with Restricted America. Um, there's no new updates as of right now. This is August 17th, 2024 for Massachusetts gun laws. But what we are going to do today is go over a condensed version of the goal summary of H.4885, now known as Chapter 135, in the effective timeline. Um, you know, this is for people that don't, if they don't quite understand it all, or if they don't want to read the whole summary or bill and just want it to be read to them. This is the video for you. Or if you want to be refreshed on how atrocious this bill is, definitely watch this video. And I'd like to start by just saying the algorithm is hurting us right now. So if you guys don't follow or subscribe, make sure to do that now, as well as like this video, leave a comment, and share it if you can. I did a little bit of work and condensed the Gun Owners Action League summary by subject matter, and I'm going to read that to you. So I don't think it leaves out any information, it just condenses it quite a bit, so it's not 10 years long, even though their summary is way shorter and way easier to understand than the actual bill itself. So I do give kudos to them. But I'm just going to give you a slightly condensed version, so you're not sitting here for hours trying to figure stuff out. So without further ado, I'm going to start reading it. So the first section is ammunition. Ammunition retailer licenses are now combined with firearm retailer licenses, mandating sellers to establish a business location separate from any residence, ensuring proper business zoning and operation oversight. The legislation permits unlimited private transfers of ammunition between individuals, reflecting a shift towards deregulating the personal exchange of ammunition. Massachusetts law now requires that every ammunition purchased through a licensed retailer be meticulously recorded, with buyers registering their personal information on site to enhance accountability and traceability. Retailers must report any incidents of ammunition theft or loss, promoting security and accountability within the supply chain. That last one I'm pretty sure was already a thing. I don't know why they're adding that in. I also assumed that the state already allows us to have unlimited transfers of ammunition. I didn't know that was included in the 4 transfers a year, but I guess it was. And yeah, they're now making anyone that just sells ammunition, they're combining that with firearm retailer license. So you have to have the whole shebang now. Antique firearms. A new distinct legal definition for antique firearm has been created to provide clarity in regulations specifying conditions where a license is required for possession. Definitely didn't clarify too much. It was very ambiguous. Antique firearms and muzzle loaders utilizing a modern primer are treated as modern firearms, necessitating owners to meet standard firearm regulations, including licensing requirements. That was just kind of a summarized version to try to be as clear as possible. The actual bill is pretty ambiguous, but you can be pretty sure they're going to consider it a modern firearm if they're using it a modern primer. And then the next section is assault weapons and large capacity magazines. A 2-feature test is introduced, thereby banning semi-automatic centerfire firearms with detachable magazines if they incorporate features like barrel shrouds or foregrips. So essentially, basically bans most semi-automatic firearms because most have barrel shrouds. Firearms recommended by the Firearm Control Advisory Board can be added to the state's assault-style firearm roster, giving the board significant influence in shaping firearms policy. Grandfathering is specified for certain firearms and magazines, those owned before September 13th, 1994 for large capacity magazines. July 20th, 2016 for enumerated assault-style firearms, and August 1st, 2024 for copies or duplicates. Yes, obviously in any other, this is going off of their effective timeline, and that's including any other types of assault-style firearms. So anything with a barrel shroud or a foregrip, as long as you owned it before August 1st. Goal still has separate reasonings for, or explanations for their 2016 grandfathering date, but I would say, pretty much if it was owned before 2024 August 1st, I think they're saying that it's grandfathered. Beginning August 1st, 2024, it becomes illegal to own, sell, or transfer assault-style firearms or large-capacity feeding devices not previously lawfully possessed and registered, aiming to curb the circulation of such items. Covert weapons, the legal framework has been amended to prevent the possession, sale, or manufacture of covert and undetectable firearms, emphasizing public safety and security. Again, I still don't even know what a covert weapon is. I feel like it could be anything that's small. But regardless, the penalty for bringing firearms into Massachusetts with the intent to commit a crime is a minimum 5-year prison sentence. And yeah, that's not really doing anything for people that already live here. Transporting firearms into Massachusetts for transfer to prohibited persons is punishable by a 10 to 20-year sentence, highlighting the severity of illegal distribution networks. People are going to do it anyway. Possession of untraceable firearms during criminal acts incurs a mandatory minimum sentence of 2.5 years, aiming to reduce gun-related crime by ensuring traceability. Yeah, that's not going to do nothing. Reckless discharge of firearms near occupied buildings results in fines or jail time, with exceptions for self-defense and law enforcement activities. Data and record management. The Department of Criminal Justice Information Services is now granted access to specific firearms-related data, focusing on improving enforcement and regulatory actions. Non-personal firearm data will be made publicly available through an online dashboard that is frequently updated, allowing for increased transparency in firearm-related activities. Sharing of records concerning substance abuse commitments is allowed for integration into NICS and law enforcement background checks, facilitating more regulatory practices. Comprehensive data collection on firearm misuse will be conducted for better law enforcement tracing and policy making. ERPO red flag laws, extreme risk protection orders, ERPOs, are expanded, enabling action not just against licensed gun owners, but anyone deemed a risk, broadening the scope of interventions. So again, I don't know how that would work because they're meant for guns. Healthcare providers are now eligible petitioners for ERPOs and may be required to disclose protected health information, integrating public safety and mental health assessments into firearm regulation. Yeah, that's not going to go well. I can tell you that right now. Firearm Control Advisory Board. The board's composition is expanded to include experts in firearm safety, law, or technology, enhancing its advisory capacity and influence in shaping firearm regulations. This board advises the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security on training needs for licensing authorities, ensuring up-to-date educational materials and practices. That's the thing. They're not going to provide up-to-date educational materials and practices because Goal included that in the 2014 bill, and it never was instated because there's no repercussions for the government not to instill the actual, one fraction of a piece of good legislation. And this board is just going to be totally comprised of elected, and I sorry to say this term, but liberal, Democrat, anti-gun legislators under the guise that they're experts. Firearm retailers and licensing. Consolidation of gunsmith, firearm, and ammunition licenses into a single retail license streamlines regulation and increases oversight on sales locations, which must not be but it can't be residential anymore. So I don't know what people that are currently have licenses that are residential in Massachusetts, because I'm sure there are. I don't know what they're going to do with that now. Stringent record keeping is required for retailers, with transaction logs open to law enforcement inspections at any time, reinforcing transparency and accountability. Internet sales of firearms and ammunition are prohibited unless items are transferred in person, aiming to limit unauthorized access for secure transactions. That's, again, these the program that I'm using to consolidate this is obviously stating these things in almost a positive light of this gun control, which is kind of funny. But that's why I'm kind of pausing and making sure to not say something that's not true. But the internet sales of firearms and ammunition were already basically prohibited in current law, and they're just restating it. I think they changed out like one or two tiny words. Frames, receivers, and ghost guns. All frames and receivers, including unfinished ones that may replicate banned assault weapons, must be lawfully possessed and registered by specific dates. The manufacture of private builds using these frames and receivers under new semi-automatic firearm definitions is banned post August 1st, 2024 to eliminate what they call ghost gun proliferation. Youth and hunting regulations prohibits non-resident youth under 18 hunting and using semi-automatic firearms. Large capacity feeding devices must have been legally owned since September 13th, 1994 to be retained. And importing these devices into Massachusetts is prohibited to prevent the expansion of high-capacity accessories. Transfers are highly restricted into to within state heirs, individuals out of state, or licensed retailers. That part have been having owned since 1994. That's not true. They would have just had to have been owned in Massachusetts in 1994. Because the law before was they could be transferred. So it has to retroactively grandfather that in, or you're making everyone that bought a pre-ban magazine between 1994 and 2024 a felon. So that would be probably a majority of gun owners in Massachusetts. Exemptions in licensing. This period allowed for inheriting firearms without penalties, decreased to 60 days, promoting their quicker legal compliance. Non-residents using firearms in the state must now register those firearms unless merely traveling through evaluation of mental health. The new prohibited person definitions are stringent record keeping. Non-resident regulations. Non-residents are required to register firearms for use in Massachusetts beyond transient purposes. Bans on non-resident possession of semi-automatic firearms for hunting, particularly those under the age of 21. Again, I think that's not going to last very long in court, especially with the case that's being brought against the non-resident licensing. Storage and transportation. Updates to storage requirements dictate secured locked storage for semi-automatics, aligning them with standards for large capacity firearms. Transportation laws mandate locked areas for firearms within vehicles. And what it doesn't say is they're also including like glove boxes, and I forgot the other one. I think they're saying a locked console as well. Special funds and commissions. Several commissions and funds are created to research violence prevention methods and improve the adoption of emerging firearm technologies such as microstamping and personalization features. This initiative also involves studying data management and the potential for federal funding to support community violence prevention programs. Again, none of this has funding. Literally none of it has funding. Surrender and registration. Firearms under suspended licenses must be surrendered to law enforcement and may only be transferred to bonded warehouses. New registrants moving into the state must register firearms, adhering to retroactively enforced registration protocols for accuracy and control. Okay. Training and public education. The introduction of comprehensive training programs for firearm safety extends to mandatory written exams and live fire exercises, as well as suicide prevention and disengagement training. Public service announcements and education materials focus on advocating for safe firearm storage and handling, with statewide distribution to educate and inform the public on responsible gun ownership practices. Again, this was included in the 2014 goal. Wanted, kind of won a small victory by including that in the 2014 bill, but it was never it was never put in place. It was never provided any funding for it. It's just ridiculous that they're trying to include that now. And then the H.4885 timeline is what we're going to go over next real quick. So this is on the GOAL website as well. I know I've gone over this before, but we're going to go over it again. Administrative dates: 7/18/24, bill passed by the Mass Senate and Mass House of Representatives. 7/25/24, signed into law by Governor Maura Healey. 10/23/24, 90 days after signing, date that all provisions not otherwise specified go into effect. And if you want to see who voted on what side of the aisle, you can go on the mass.gov webpage for H.4885. You can actually see the whole bill on that page. You can see the roll calls for each person, that each representative, each senator voted for, if they voted to even hear the bill or voted on a yay or nay vote for accepting and enacting the bill. Effective dates: assault style firearms, 7/20/2016. GOAL thinks this is a meaningless date in the language, coincides with then Attorney General Healey's enforcement notice regarding so-called enumerated and duplicates and copies of assault weapons, now referred to as assault style firearms, ASFs, in the new statute. 9/13/1994, grandfather date only applies to pre-banned large capacity magazines. Any such magazines that were possessed within the Commonwealth on or before that date are legal to possess and transfer in the Commonwealth with an LTC. 8/1/24, grandfather date for any assault style firearms possessed, purchased, and registered on or before 8/1/24, preventing them from being unlawful according to the new law. Applies to enumerated ASFs, duplicates, and copies, as well as those that meet the two scary features test. So all ASFs, including unfinished or home-built ASFs. Again, ASF stands for assault style firearm in this language. Licensing: 10/23/24, possibly the last day new LTCs and FIDs will be issued in the Commonwealth without a certificate from the state showing that the applicant has taken one of the required training courses under the new curriculum to be established by the Commonwealth. There is no mandatory timeline for the state police to develop the new curriculum. Licenses issued on or before 8/1/24 grandfather regarding the new training requirements. So if you had your license issued before 8/1, you're good. You don't have to go do any of this crap. As well as, going to get your renewal, you don't have to take that new course, even if this bill actually does go into effect come October. Registration and serialization. The state has up to 1 year to put the registration system in place, but there does not appear to be any grace period for the mandatory registration of firearms on 10/23/24. 10/23/24, all guns in the Commonwealth that don't fit specific exemptions must be serialized. If they are not, the state must have a system in place to issue and register new serial numbers to anyone who requests them. I did a video a little bit back about what GOAL said about the serialization and how it could be like huge bad thing for literally everybody and could make all of our guns illegal technically. So if you want to watch that, that's back in my video list, and I think it's listed under the Trojan horse of H.4885. So if you want to watch that kind of goes into that a little bit. 7/25/25, the DCJIS has up to a year to establish such serial number request and issue system. Retailers, 10/23/24, possibly the last day any retailers can sell any firearms, or whether accidentally or not. All firearms, including long guns, are now included in the new definition of firearm, and firearms are subject to the roster regulations. It is unclear as to whether the existing rosters will remain in place or the state will create new rosters. Semi-automatics, excluding assault-style firearms. 10/23/24, also the last date for any and all FID holders, regardless of age, to possess any semi-automatic firearm, including rimfire. So guys, that's the whole timeline and effective dates. That's my whole condensed summary. I know that was still a bit of a mouthful, but I hope that provided some more information for especially those that don't even live in Massachusetts, because I know I've been making a lot of videos about this bill and now that's signed into law. And you might be asking, well, what does this bill actually entail? Like, why, like, gun control is gun control regardless, but like, what is actually in it? Like, what's happening to mass residents? Well, I hope that provided a little bit more information. Again, if you didn't like this video, make sure to do that now. Leave a comment, share it. If you're not subscribed, make sure to do that as well. And other than that, guys, stay informed and stay unrestricted.